Girl, once you push that baby out, your attention is going to be on that baby and yourself. One of the cool things of becoming a mom is realizing how much strong you are than you ever thought possible. And that's coming from a pretty risk averse person like me. Hey, clean folk. We are changing the pace a little bit. Talk about my labor, delivery, and postpartum. If you're new here, welcome. This is Mindful Prairie Living, and I am Nicole. I talk a lot about navigating first time motherhood in the Canadian prairies. Today, I really want to talk about 15 things that have helped me prep for and survive the first few weeks of becoming a mom. We'll divide that into 3 phases. The first phase is planning before your labor and delivery. The next 5 would be about during the whole labor process. The last 5 would be what would happen once you take your baby home. I will say though that I apologize if you hear some clanging and swishing. That is my husband playing his video games upstairs. So we'll see how that goes. When it comes to prepping for your labor, I think a lot of the mental load that goes into that before like the physical laboring process. Here were 5 things that helped me to feel ready before I went to the hospital. The first one is to know your employment insurance or your mat leave finances. In the context of Canada, we are very lucky that we get employment insurance for 12 to 18 months. Part of that would be maternity leave, and then the rest would be parental leave, where you can divvy that up with your partner if you choose to. I had read a little bit about it, and of course, I've talked to my employer about it, but it's really important that you know what to expect in terms of the changes in your finances once baby is here, because girl, once you push that baby out, your attention is going to be on that baby and yourself, and it's hard to think about all of these admin stuff in the back of your mind. For me, it was important to really just go on the website, log on your account, and see if your address is up to date, if your name is up to date. I had to go through this process of changing my last name because I was still using my maiden name. If you are from Canada, you know that sometimes it takes a while to even contact the government people. So make sure that that is in place weeks before you are expecting your baby. The second one would be reading a lot about pain management during your delivery. Some people choose not to take any pain medication. I want to say that you women are so great for that. I wanted to see where my pain can take me, but we'll talk about that in the next little bit. It's so important that you know what the options are before you head to the hospital, because once your contraction hits, it's just limited that rational brain of yours because you're concentrating on your breathing and getting that baby out. This brings me to the point of how important having a doula was for myself and my husband. She was able to walk us through the process of birthing, prepping for it, and then what could potentially happen after. I don't know about you, but for me, it's okay to have other people when you are laboring. Some people might like that, but you don't want too many people. And I was very grateful that we still had the doula because she knew how to support us through that birthing journey. She also took the mental load off of us, knowing what our preferences were. And also, she was really great at advocating for our needs and asking what we are able to do at different points or different phases of laboring. The third one is having a nursery bag and car seat prepared weeks before you're due. I think for us, we started prepping around 31 weeks. Really helped us have all of that ready inside our car in case he was ready to go on a Saturday morning or something like that. So I would recommend just checking how to set up your car seat, practicing that with your partner or other members of your family if you have them. With that thought about recruiting other members of your family or friends. Number 4 would be to plan who's going to take care of your house as well as your dog or pets if you have them. We have a puppy, knowing where he's going to go, who's going to pick him up. And then the last one, prior to labor and delivery, I think that would be helpful is to bring water as well as easy snacks. I realized that during labor, my go to was apple juice. So feel free to bring something that could hydrate you or give you quick energy because the labor can be long. Mine was about 19 hours, I think. Now let's talk about during labor. Continuing our list, number 6 is again having a doula. She just helped me focus on my breathing. I couldn't care less of whoever else was talking except my doula because when the contractions hit, they hit pretty hard. And I could just only focus on my breathing and I could only hear her talking, walking me through my breaths. So if you do have a chance, it is one of the best things that made my delivery very positive. And this brings me to number 7. If you had asked me how my experience was, I want to say that overall I did have a positive birthing experience, with the exception of nurses having a hard time putting IV on me and timing the epidural. For some reason, my contractions were happening and there wasn't enough breaks in between. So I was just in constant agony. And by the time that they were putting IV on me, they couldn't find the exact vein where to put it. It was one of the most painful things, I think. Not, it wasn't even the pushing really, it was the IV and just waiting for the anesthesiologist to get the epidural for me. The wait was just like horrible. Like I thought I was waiting for hours. It felt like hours because when you are waiting for an epidural, when they inject it to you, you have to be really still. And that is really hard to do when you are having intense contractions. Moving forward for me in the future, I would 100% still use epidural in the end, but figuring out the better timing to do that is something that I will definitely keep in mind. Then we'll move on to number 8, which is checking your hospital for private rooms. Maybe this isn't a thing anymore in Canada, but at least where I'm at in Alberta, just outside of Edmonton, we have public hospitals. There's often semi private rooms for postpartum units. And we did get that. I was told, I don't know who, but there is potentially an option to get a private room, but you'd have to check your hospital before that. I still obviously believe in universal and public access to healthcare. So I'm so glad that we didn't have to pay for anything at all for my birth. Thank you, Canada, for that, right? I will say, though, that I didn't really have a great postpartum recovery. The reason for that is first night was not that bad. We came to the room around like 3 or 4 in the morning. Other people were asleep and they were pretty like mindful of their noise. What was challenging was the next day where we had a new family come in, and I know they're also tired because obviously the mom just gave birth, and bless this woman, like all the things that could go wrong went wrong for her, and I hope that she recovered really well after that. This whole time that we were there, 2 of the people that were with them were sleeping the whole time, but they were snoring so loudly from like 3 p.m. up until the next day, like nonstop. For somebody who hasn't had sleep since day before, that is so hard. My husband snores, I snore too, but it was just like the noise was overwhelming and we couldn't really do anything about it. That's my thing for next time, is if we have an option for a private room, I would pay for that. No, if that's exactly still an option for us now, that would have made a big difference after delivery recovery for me for sure. My number 9 thing to do would be to read up about breastfeeding or nursing, figuring what colostrum is, because I realized that I was not prepared for the breastfeeding part at all. It took days before the milk went out and even the colostrum, so I was panicking the day after birth whether I am actually feeding my child. And initially did formula feeding. I know some parents get ruffled about this, that they want to do breastfeeding from the get go, but I didn't know what I was doing and I was scared that I was making my baby hungry or thirsty. So we followed what the nurses' advice were. And looking at it now, the nurses' advice were all different, like depending on the shift. It's very important for you as parents to figure out what breastfeeding is. And sometimes that might take a long time. If you are not totally sure, it's always a good idea to connect with a lactation consultant, which is something that we will talk about for postpartum as well. The last thing is you want to make sure, mama, that you are eating, hydrating, and napping when you can. I realized that I had really intense anxiety right after I had my baby because I wouldn't stop just staring at him for ever and not even think about eating or drinking anything until my husband reminds me to do it, because I feel like if I take my eyes off of him, something is going to happen. And obviously, I think that is my anxiety on overdrive, or just like my primal brain on overdrive as well. Lean on to the people around you if you can. It was really nice. I think the last night we were in the hospital and I was just really having a hard time napping because everybody was snoring. But the nurse told me that if I really needed just somebody to help out, they can take the baby for an hour or two so that I can nap. And that was really helpful, I think. Okay, now let's talk about things I wish I knew once I got home from the hospital. Number 11, freeze prep food and accept food from family and loved ones. I was so lucky that another friend of mine who just had a baby a few months before I did went to my house and we both cooked a bunch of meals, froze them. I thought that was really helpful for the first few weeks where I couldn't even cook a lot. It just really saved me. I've had a few family members and friends either give me takeout gift cards like Skip the Dishes or DoorDash, as well as there were some family members who just dropped off food at my door. I didn't realize how much of a love language that was. And something for me to keep in mind is if we do decide to have another baby, we might not have as much of a baby shower, but if we do have some sort of party, I think what I'm going to ask people to do is to bring frozen food so that I can just stock up on that for the next time that I have to go through all of this again. Number 12 would be scheduling to see your doctor or lactation consultant right away. Now, this might not be the case for everybody, especially if breastfeeding was a breeze for you, but it really wasn't for me. I was ready to give up after 3 weeks because it was so painful. If you know, you know. I went to the doctor and I thought that there was something wrong. The funny thing about it is, if something hurts there, apparently what you need to do is to actually keep on nursing. And that can be really stressful and painful for the mom. So, if you are a caregiver or a partner to the mom who's breastfeeding, please make things easier for them, because breastfeeding is crazy, but it is very worth it when you're able to do it. Also, I know how hard it is. If you are finding that breastfeeding isn't for you, like, you have the option to do formula feeding. And I wouldn't be the first to say, oh, you need to do this. I think as a mom, you need to decide what works best for you. If that is formula feeding, go for it. For us, we decided that breastfeeding was the route to go. And we also introduced bottle feeding with expressed breast milk. And that has worked for a bit. Now on month 3.5, I don't know if it is still. So we're still figuring that out. But it was so important for us to really connect with somebody who can give us specific feedback, because sometimes, like, you have people around you that mean well, but they might give unsolicited advice and might be the wrong advice for your specific situation. So it's best to just talk to somebody who knows and will provide you a judgment free space for you to try and learn about breastfeeding or nursing a baby. Number 13, make sure you and your partner understand how to help and support each other. I know that a lot of men or a lot of partners are already stepping up in this period, but I think it's so important just to really have a conversation on how you're going to help support each other. Yes, Mom is going through a lot. Dad needs to support wherever he can. You are both still learning as parents, and that is going to take time. That's why they are saying that in research, becoming new parents is pretty much the hardest part in a relationship. So it's always important that you and your partner have constant communication and remember that you are a team. You are there to support each other. I was very grateful that my husband was able to stay for about 2 weeks at home. Looking back at it now, he's saying that that was the best thing that he did. Of course, things are different now. Our baby sleeps differently. My husband is back to work full time and he is providing for us, and I'm grateful for that. Number 14, I never thought that this would be something I would say, but you can say no to visitors. I love hosting. I love seeing people at my house. When you are recovering after pushing a baby out, you can say no to visitors. The women in my life who have given birth are so great at knowing this. Maybe it's me, my people pleasing and perfectionist tendencies, where I'm just like, oh, we can entertain people, or I want them to see the baby. But it's so important that you take that time for yourself. And if you are okay with having some of your family members visit from either side of the family, make sure that you are not doing any of the work. My family and my husband's family have been so great at that. Whenever they're here, they try to take care of some of the meals or just like cleaning the home. Or in other cases, if I do need a break from the baby, then they can hold the baby while I do my own thing, which for the first few weeks of motherhood would be sleeping. Number 15, I don't know if a lot of parents or a lot of moms experience this, but cluster feeding nights, the first few weeks are so hard. They are so important for helping increase your milk supply, but they are so dang difficult on your mental health, on your body. I think my advice here would be to just make yourself comfortable. And if you have family, use that time to decompress yourself. If you have opportunities to switch off with your partner or whoever else, take that time, because those days can be so long and tiresome. So, yeah, there you have it. Those are 15 things that have helped me prepare for my birth, but also things to think about when you are in the hospital and once you bring home your baby. It's crazy to think how it suddenly hits you that everything has changed the moment that you get home from the hospital. I think that was it for me, because I just remember leaving the house like with all the blankets and the living room unorganized, and then coming back here different. You know what I mean? Maybe like parents or moms know this feeling, but there's just a sense of things not being what they were. I love motherhood. It is hard, but there's also that point where it's okay to grieve the life that you once lived. Prior to having a kid, you had an established life, you had a better understanding of yourself, but that is changing again, and transitions are hard. So if you ever have those feelings, it's always okay to reach out to somebody that you know and can trust to work through those feelings. It would be such a great idea to connect with a therapist. That's what I do right now too, to just talk to somebody about how you're feeling and have somebody validate that means a lot. You're going through a lot of changes. The more support system that you have, it can be easier. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a walk in the park, but it's more manageable to go through those rough months when you have a genuine support system. Okay, that was a lot of yapping on my end. I appreciate that you're still here up until the end. If you have some thoughts regarding this list, feel free to comment, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.